Hello viewers, we have reached the fourth and final round of this season's Nations Cup. And this could be quite an interesting one because hard, medium and soft tyres are available. And so with a 20 lap race, this could get quite spicy. With all of that said, let's jump into the first race. Yes, here we go guys. The qualifying session of attempt number 1. Through the final corner here at Watkins Glen. This was a pretty good opener to the session. As you can see, we're going to immediately go onto pole position, at least for about 5 seconds before this Italian goes 0.2 faster. So I knew that I was in a decent position here, had to find another couple of tenths, which I kind of was doing. I was a tenth up on the faster lap before this moment ruined the session and ended any hopes of pole position. In the end I had to settle for second. Now we can do this race on medium and hard and do a one stop only, which I think is the better strategy. And in terms of strategy, we'll find out how that goes, because that's going to be a key factor in this race. So let's begin. 20 laps of Watkins Glen Group 3 cars. And when I say Group 3, pretty much everyone opted for the BMW M6. And yeah, it's pretty much a field of those cars. Anyway, this is the end of lap 3. My main challenge was just simply to try to keep up with this guy. In qualifying, first lap he was 0.2 faster. He ended up being pretty much 0.4 faster in the end. So that was a gap that isn't insignificant. I definitely knew this guy was fast. And in the pressure of trying to keep with him, you can see I get a penalty, which ultimately dropped me off about a second or more behind. I did manage to catch back up on the following lap, but I got myself another penalty here on lap 9 before on lap 10 it was his turn to get a penalty and I was going to catch up slightly. So this race was actually running incredibly close. I do believe we were on the same tyre at this point, both on the medium, and as you can see mine were fairly worn, especially the left hand side, which gets most of the punishment here at Watkins Glen. So I decided to bring the car in at the end of lap 10, so halfway into the race exactly. And therefore I thought, let's change back onto another set of mediums. They can clearly last 10 laps. Softs probably wouldn't last 10 laps, and hards would last longer but would be slower. So this made sense to me in my mind. As Beles GT, the leader, goes into the pit lane, just a couple of laps later, you see him exiting the pits on the right hand side. I had done just enough to secure the lead of the race. But it must be said that he is on the soft tyre. So this differential in tyres now made for an interesting proposition from here to the end of the race, as we're doing our utmost to try to keep him behind when he's on better tyres. This is not going to be easy at all. All I can do is try my hardest to prolong this fight as long as possible to wear his tyres out more than mine. So beginning of 14 now. Going down the straight, I was defending. He was actually updrafting me, so I think he had the intention of just trying to keep up for the time being. Didn't really have much interest in going for the lead of the race, quite interestingly. This is lap 17 now, and you can see he's actually trying to go for the overtake. Still covering the inside, so there's no chance of that overtake coming off. Trying our utmost to not get a penalty through that chicane, which is easier said than done. So lap number 19 now, that you see the gap opening up, he's got a 1 second penalty as well. So this is where the race began to turn into my favour. Lap 19 of 20, and then this is lap 20 of 20. I thought I'd come through to win a brilliant race, 12 seconds in the lead, but you're about to find out why I didn't. Ooh, we did it guys. Got there in the end. That was quite tough. I'd actually got myself a 4-minute penalty for not using 2 different types of tyre in the race. And that was a very disastrous thing to find out after such a brilliant race. P12. What a stupid mistake. It does say it there, required tyre type change on. I didn't read it properly. So obviously I did not read the rules. You cannot use the same compound, you have to change. Okay, attempt number 2. Let's do this one properly. So at least this time we know that you have to change your tyres. Usually I'm used to the game telling you which types of tyre you have to use. Normally it will say soft and medium must be used, or medium and hard must be used. I didn't see that on this occasion, and therefore that's why I made that mistake. And I think there was a few of us who actually did that. We didn't read the rules properly, but there you go. We move on to the second race with all of the knowledge accrued from the first one. It was still a good race. We still put together a good race, albeit by not following the rules. But let's try and do a better package of a race here. So this is my qualifying session for attempt number 2. I definitely thought I'd bring you that first race because it is important just to highlight that you should read the rules just to make sure there isn't something there that can catch you out. And this is certainly one of those occasions where I've just been caught out. Simple as that. So this was a good lap here in this second session in the BMW once again. By this point, really comfortable with this car around this track. Seem to have a nice flow. This corner here, going in nice and early. I think I've always tried to commit to that corner too late in the past and lost a lot of time, but I feel a lot more comfortable through there now. Coming up towards the penultimate couple of corners. Penultimate corner, you can actually carry a lot of speed. Make sure you stay within track limits on the exit. And again here, just really throw the car in. Make the most of the track limits on the exit. But you can actually get penalties on the exit of that final corner, so you have to be careful. Anyway, up to the line, 1:42.9. That is the lap time we were looking for. Sub 43. Now, annoyingly, this is something that's really annoying. This guy comes out of the pit lane on an out lap, gets a penalty, doesn't really get out of the way. And so I'm on a flying lap here trying to improve. But annoyingly, yeah, we kind of get blocked here. And, you know, it's just a bit of situational awareness or lack thereof from that guy. So I lost a couple of tenths. This second lap was not quicker. But ultimately, the first lap was good enough for pole position, so I was still happy with that. Okay, guys. Pole position. We know the strategy this time. Ideally, 12, 13 laps on mediums and then go on to the soft tyre. That would have been fine if I had actually put the medium tyre on. I realised here that I'd actually left the soft on. Just realised I've left it on the soft tyre from qualifying, so I'm gonna have to adapt the strategy slightly. Okay, well, that's not ideal, but let's let's see how this plays out. So yeah, I don't know what was happening to me on this day, but clearly I wasn't at my sharpest, wasn't really paying attention. And so it's the easy mistake to make between qualifying and the race where you forget to change your tyres. And so I am still on the soft tyre beginning this 20 lap race. Now this is not ideal. You don't really want to start the race on the soft tyre. I think you want to start it on the harder available and then move on to the softer if possible. But it is what it is. I can't change it now. So we're going to have to make do with this pit stop strategy. So the soft tyre doesn't really last too long. The tyre wear is quite high in this race. And so we're probably looking at changing at lap 6 or 7 and then moving on to the hard tyre. I don't think the medium will last 13 laps. It can. This is the thing. It's hard to know. I haven't really rehearsed that. In the first race, I did 2 stints on medium and it lasted about 10 laps. I could have maybe got 12 out of it. So we're just going to have to work this one out on the fly, see what happens. So obviously, from pole position on soft tyres, I should be able to push. You can see the gap there from myself to second place. Just opening up, as it should do, presuming that the guy behind isn't also on the soft tyre. In fact, he shouldn't really be on the soft because it's a stupid strategy. And you see through turn 1, exit of, just running a little bit wide on the exit and getting myself the first penalty of the race. And this kind of thing I can't really afford to do too much. I'm going to drop down here. I think the half-second penalty probably loses you about a second. And so we're just going to fall slightly back towards Andy there in second place. It's not ideal. In this stint, it's really just about building that gap. And it's just cost me a second. It's going to take me many laps to try and get that back. It's not ideal at all. I did realise that through this corner here, I was actually gaining a handful of tenths every lap. And so I'd have to really capitalise on corners like that. Sometimes you just realise this throughout the course of a race, that through certain corners you're a lot quicker than your opponent. You have to really try and hammer home that advantage as many times as possible. End of lap 2. Gap up to 1.2. Really not enough. I think we need to be gaining more than we are. Penalty not really serving to help us at all. End of lap number 5. Take a look at the bottom left of the screen. There it is. Tyres not doing too well at all. I have moved the brake bias all the way to the back to try to preserve that front tyre as much as possible, but it's not really seeming to help too much. And so at the end of lap 6, I decided I'm not really going to be able to go around another time. So we're going to have to bring the car in. And with 14 laps still to go, it only really gave me one strategy option. I had to go onto the hard tyre. I didn't think the medium would last that long. And so the strategy of this race was really quite interesting. I think Polyphony designed quite an intriguing race here where 3 tyre compounds are available and actually different strategies are actually reasonable. And so the strategy we've gone for here, soft onto the hard, and this is going to be hard to pull off. Yes, I started on pole. I had a 4-second margin just before we went into the pit lane, but this is not going to be easy as we have a 17.5 second gap to the leader. This is going to be quite important to monitor as that guy is the one we're racing really, so I need that gap to go down as much as possible. What isn't ideal is with this strategy, pitting early, I come out into traffic, as you can see up in front, and this is something that can definitely slow down my race and derail my momentum. So this guy gets a penalty. I'm just going to have enough speed to get past on the outside, so no time lost against that guy. Gap at 18 seconds to the leader at this moment. Trying to find a way through for a lot of this circuit isn't always easy. On the hard tyre, I don't really know what tyres these guys are on. It feels like they're on the same tyre. Of course, they're going to have much more worn tyres by this point. But the best overtaking opportunity on the lap, I would say, is on the exit of turn 1, on the run towards chicane. However, on this occasion, I'm quite close. I kind of fake a move. I didn't really want to go for the move here, but clearly it was enough to just distract this driver in front. Brakes a little bit too late and hands me the position. Didn't really lose too much time there, maybe a tenth or two, having to check up slightly on the exit. But we get past those 2 guys without really losing too much time. That's about as good as I could have hoped for as we move up into 7th place. The gap, 18.2. By end of lap 11, 17.5. So we're back to pretty much where we were when I came out of the pit lane at the beginning of lap 7. And so I need to try to make some inroads now, especially as these guys at the front are on the last couple of laps of their tyres. They're on the medium tyres, I think, and so their tyres are going to be very worn by this point. And let's not forget, once they come to the pit lane, I'm guessing they're going onto the soft tyre. So they're going to be on fresh softs and I'm going to be on worn hards, and therefore that gap is going to come down really quickly when they end up behind me after their pit stops. So this is going to be one of those races where the dynamic is going to be constantly changing throughout. I definitely think I went for the wrong strategy here, given that I forgot to change the tyres at the beginning, which really doesn't help. All I can do is make the best of the scenario and try to bring home this win in suboptimal circumstances. So the gap down to 14 seconds now as the top couple of guys go into the pit lane, and indeed they were on the medium tyre. A little bit of time lost here trying to negotiate around this Irishman who had a bit of trouble going into the pit lane. Quite an awkward pit lane entry here at Watkins Glen. You do have to check up quite a lot. Down into the first corner, and we do have a bit more traffic to deal with here. As you can see, the guys behind, the Greek driver and the Swiss drivers are the ones to look out for, both exiting the pit lane on soft tyres with a gap of around 7 seconds. So I have about 7 or 8 laps here to try to keep them at bay by 7 seconds. So as you can probably tell, the math, is quite simple. About a second a lap I have to play with here, and any second is crucial. So I don't really want to lose any time here behind this Greek player in the Subaru, which is a good handling car. I'm guessing that by this stage of the race, their tyres probably aren't in the best of nick. And so we're going to have to try and find a way through as early as possible. The Subaru doesn't have the best power, and so perhaps coming out of this corner we can make a move into the next one. You can see here, really holds back on the exit, moves to the right hand side, and I'm not challenged at all and therefore we're going to take this position quite easily. So that was good. I think I've been quite lucky here with traffic in this race. Traffic can really affect you very badly. You know, one little scrap, one little fight, they defend once or twice, you can easily lose more than a second. But I wouldn't say I've lost even half a second up against the 3 back markers or traffic that I've come up against. So lap 15, gap 6.9. And then we're going to move this forward by another lap. Start of 16, gap down to 5 seconds. Then another lap later, at the beginning of 17, gap down to 3.4. You can probably see a picture here. They are gaining very quickly, much quicker than I'd like. And by halfway through lap 17, the gap is 3.0. So this is coming down a little bit too quickly for my liking, and actually quicker than the rate of 1 second per lap. At the end of this lap, I still have 3 laps to go, and the gap is already less than 3 seconds, 2.5. In fact, by the end of 18, this is where things really begin to hot up, because the gap is 0.5, and as you can see in the replay camera, they are right behind me, and it's not just one player, it's 2. And so I have a real risk here of losing the win, but also second place. This could easily go into a 3rd place, maybe even a 4th, if I drive very badly. So this is going to have to be a very strong defensive drive. I need to get a good exit out of this first corner. As you can see, I get chronic understeer with these hard tyres. All I can do now, up the main straight, up the S's, is protect the right-hand side, and therefore the inside up towards the chicane. This is easily the best overtaking opportunity on the lap. We're going to have to deny the inside to this player, as he's going to go to the left-hand side. We're going to cover him off. That's pretty much a textbook defense. Not much that guy could really do other than kind of just wait and have to survive for another day. But you see the situation here is quite dire now. These 2 guys are right on me with much more grip. I mean, they do have soft tyres which are on the end of their life. So all I can do is really hope that their tyres wear out quite quickly and run out of grip completely, but that is probably not going to happen. Contact between the 2 of them behind. And that's kind of another thing that I can hope for, that these 2, rather than going past me in unison, they hit each other in unison. Now coming up towards this next big braking zone, covering the inside once again, and this is going to be a very minor mistake with big consequences. You see here, just by a millimetre or so, driving beyond the line, and I knew it. You see my reaction here as I get handed a 0.5 second penalty at really just the worst time, as I was defending pretty well to this point. I was doing all I could on much worse tyres, but you can see it's hotting up. In fact, even 4th place is trying to get in on the action just behind, so I could easily drop not even to 3rd, but even to 4th now, so I could actually lose a podium at this rate. Final lap begins, and the Greek driver has the overlap on the inside. Not much I could do there. I mean, I could have defended a lot earlier, but I didn't, and once he was there I couldn't really move. And so now I'm in the slipstream and have to try to defend against 2 more players behind. It's a really tough scenario to be in on worse tyres. The hard tyre doesn't really offer up much grip, especially compared to the soft. Coming up towards the chicane, this is where things are going to get quite tricky. I'm going to cover the inside, and the Swiss player goes around the outside. There's going to be contact here as he tries to rejoin the track, but I'm not really going to budge and move from my line, and so he's actually got a bit of damage from behind. I think he must have got contact from the German, as the 2 of them are side by side coming down the hill. It's going to be really tricky here. I have this half-second penalty to serve, and we're going to do so after this right-hander coming up. And so this is going to be quite a interesting moment of this race. It's unlikely I'm going to be able to win, because this guy in front has much better tyres and is pulling away. All I can do though is hope that I can stay in 2nd place, and it looks like I'm going to be able to do that. Although there's still 3 or 4 corners left in the race, and it's not over yet. I still have to defend for the remaining, let's say, 15-20 seconds of this race. And it seems as though, luckily for me, the 2 guys behind are quite preoccupied with fighting each other, and therefore that's going to save me on this occasion. You see they're side by side now, and it's going to give me just enough of a buffer and breathing room to be able to go through the final corner safely on my own, and ultimately finish in a 2nd place. The German and the Greek driver oh sorry, the Swiss driver both going into the wall. But after all of that brilliant racing, it is going to be a second place. Couldn't quite do it, guys. What a race though. Fine margins. I mean, I shouldn't have done that tyre strategy, but I almost made it work. And allow me to welcome you to Exhibit A, where I lost the race. Just past the track limits, as you can see, 1 pixel, maybe 2 pixels. Okay guys, the results are in. Let's take a look. Now, I only did 1 round, so I wasn't expecting too much here, but 2.4 million credits, I'll take it. And that's the end of the Nations Cup. Nothing currently available. When's the next one? We don't really know just yet. But in the meantime, have a nice day. See you next time.